Hello, this is Joan with Coffee Reviews, and today we will be reviewing Day 9 of KaffeBox's Advent Calendar, featuring the Alma Negra Black Soul Natural Process Las Lajas Costa Rica from Bønner. And there's the container right there. And I did a Google voice thing to try to pronounce the name as correctly as possible. A little bit about the roaster that translates in English to Fire and Beans. The information they have on the Instagram post is that they are based out of Porsgrunn, Norway, about 2 hours south of Oslo. And Joel, who I believe is the owner, is originally Australian and is now based in Norway. He's been a chef for a while, so has worked with flavor, aroma, and balance for quite a few years. And let me get some notes out of the way. So this right here is Day 9 and today's the 14th, so I'm 5 days behind, and I just received my second shipment of the calendar today, so that's why this video is going to be coming out later. But it's going to go back to being daily, and hopefully I get the third shipment before the 16th so we can try to remain as close to possible on the schedule. But of course, the rest of the information, the housekeeping notes. This coffee is definitely your traditional Scandinavian Nordic light coffee, so it's definitely on the lighter side. And the recipe I did with this one was a 15-to-1 again, and 201 degrees. The recipe's been working for these Nordic coffees, so I'm going to keep working with that for right now. And of course it was brewed through the Chemex. Now let's get into discussing this coffee, because this coffee is two different coffees pretty much. I got two completely different coffees while I was drinking this. The first impression I got when I was brewing this coffee was it did smell a little fruity. So I kind of had the assumption that it was a natural processed coffee, and when it was on the warmer side, it definitely tasted like a very strong pineapple. Now this was a more ripe pineapple, and it was a very strong pineapple. And the other flavors I was getting was some other citrus fruits, what was probably like a juicy tangerine or an orange, but it started out to a really, really nice flavor. Now as it cooled down, it took a completely different turn. It basically turned into an entirely different coffee. And at this time I was getting a little bit more of a smokier dark chocolate and kind of like a little bit more tea taste to this coffee. And the fruits were somewhat there. I was getting maybe some more fleshy fruits at this time, but it went from being very prominent and notable pineapple to a lot more of a smokier dark chocolate for me. And let me go ahead and put up the tasting wheel now so you can see what I was getting. And I had such a difficult time making this tasting wheel because I started out putting the coffee at full 5 for sweet and 5 for citrus fruit because it was super sweet and super citrusy. As it cooled down, I couldn't keep it that strong because it was no longer as sweet and the pineapple wasn't as prominent. The chocolate again could have been by the end of 5 because the dark chocolate was pretty strong, but I couldn't do that because the coffee wasn't there the entire time. So I had actually changed this wheel while I was drinking it a lot because it wasn't consistent. The tastes were so different the entire time with this coffee that I couldn't agree with myself the first time I made it, and then the second time I made it, and the third time I went around with it. Even now, as it's cooled down again, there are maybe some things I would change. It definitely did start out as what I felt like was a more clean coffee, but then not quite as clean. Body's still super light. Smokiness seems to have tapered off just slightly. And acidity seems to have died down too. So even as I made this tasting wheel, I feel like this tasting wheel is maybe an aggregate total of the way the coffee tasted from start to finish rather than at one specific time. So I think the best thing I can do right now is kind of compare it to a lot of the Las Lajas I had over the course of the year, and since there's so much Las Lajas content on here, then this is pretty fitting. One thing I'm going to rave about is that I loved there was not a lot of cherry in this coffee. I actually don't think I got any cherry, which is great because that was the thing that was a sticking point for me about the Las Lajas coffees. My first impression of this coffee when I first had it, I said this is a contender for being my favorite coffee from the Advent calendar so far, and that's the flavor profile I like, something that's very strong with the pineapple very forward. Those really nice fruits that I got at the beginning, that's what I really enjoy in a lot of these coffees. And then the other side of it, the more smokier dark chocolate, not a big dark chocolate person, so it changed, and I can see liking both sides of this coffee because I think both parts of the coffee were done. They tasted pretty distinct and pretty notable, but I just really loved the first half way more than I enjoyed the second half of this coffee. So I think this makes it kind of easy for someone to recommend. Somebody that does enjoy complexity and changes over the course of one singular cup of coffee, because I love the uniqueness that this coffee did offer. I don't recall ever having a coffee that has been so day and night and two completely different things. Obviously coffee changes as you're drinking it, but to the extent in which this coffee did, that's quite rare, and this is quite unique. So I know that they'll have a second coffee, and of course I'm going to judge them based off of the second one, but positive first impression so far, and I look forward to the second one. I'm going to leave it at that, and if you've tried this coffee roaster before, or this coffee, please let me know what you thought of it. And if you're enjoying the content, give this video a like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. But this right here has been a review of the natural processed Alma Negra Black Soul Las Lajas Costa Rica from Bønner. Thank you for watching.